blessings upon you, O our master, Abu Abdullah al-Husayn ibn Ali, for whom the angels do tawaf of your qubbah in Karbala. This is from Ziyarat al-Nahiya of our 12th Imam. Hafin bi turbatik. The angels are walking barefoot in your turbah. Hafin bi turbatik. At-ta'ifin bi aradik. They are circulating your courtyard. Al-waridini ziyaratik. And they have arrived to give their bay'ah and their salam and their greetings to you. Last night I was thinking about something, and there was a Sayyid who mentioned something recently which really hit me, a prominent Sayyid Alim, and it is very true what he had said, which was, why is it that we are here? How is it that each and every one of us have ended up in these chairs or sitting here or somewhere in the courtroom, somewhere in this building tonight? The answer to this lies in none other than the dua of Sayyidah Zahra, al-Batul Zahra. For tonight, when we arrive, we are answering her call, that the ummah may have forgotten her son. The ummah may have ripped the head from the shoulders of her son. The ummah may have soaked his beard in blood. But today we are telling you, Ya Zahra, we are here for your son. We are here for the son for whom you will be carrying his qamis covered in blood on the day of judgment, and you will come on the ma'ashar on the day of judgment, and you will demand the adala and the justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are here responding to the da'wah in the invitation of Sayyidah Zahra. This is a ni'mah like no other ni'mah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is not coincidence that we end up here. We have been graced to be among the guests of Sayyidah Zahra. We are her guests. We have come here and we have answered her da'wah and her call. If this is not the greatest of ni'mah, I don't know what is. قال الله تبارك وتعالى في محكم الكتاب المجيد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قال فبما أغويتني لأقعدن لهم صراطك المستقيم أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Last night I spoke about the ziyarah of Imam al-Husayn and its importance, and I want to continue with about that tonight. We'll wrap that up tonight, and tomorrow we will begin to move on to the attributes of the ashab of Abu Abdullah and how these attributes relate to us today. Tomorrow we will move on to a new subject, inshaAllah. The ziyarah of Abu Abdullah has been marked with bloodshed, murder, genocide, imprisonment, decapitation, and all sorts of oppression. From the very early days, my dear brothers and sisters, a heavy price was paid for responding to the call of Abu Abdullah. A heavy price was paid for saying, Assalamu alayka ya Mawlai, ya Abu Abdullah. Limbs were cut, heads were cut, people were imprisoned, families were killed. For what? For saying Assalamu alayka ya Abu Abdullah. This is not an over-exaggeration. This is the history. My dear brothers and sisters, I'm a specialist in the subject. This is what I specialize in as a historian. There was a genocide from the very beginning, and this genocide continues today. Not much has changed. During the Umayyad period, they would ambush and kill the Zuwwar of Imam al-Husayn. For example, the companions of Imam al-Sadiq would tell the Imam that they would hide out overnight somewhere near the grave, and they would have to leave in middle of the night, for if they're caught, they would be killed on the road. Not much has changed today, has it? Going to the time of Imam Hassan al-Askari alayhi salam, al-Mutawakkil mal'oon ordered the destruction of the shrine of Imam al-Husayn. Al-Tabari states in his book of history, this is Al-Tabari, one of the most famous historians of Ahlul Sunnah. These are not from the books of the Shia. Al-Tabari says the following, I'll relate it in Arabic. He says, فيها أمر المتوكل بحتم قبر الحسين ibn Ali. And amongst the things that Mutawakkil did was to completely destroy the grave of Husayn ibn Ali, to obliterate it and to excavate it. Not only that, he tried to excavate it. Can you imagine the kind of barbarity and sickness that they had? They tried to excavate the grave, much like they did to Hujr ibn Adi, but this is nothing new. They did this to Abu Abdullah, Husayn ibn Ali. What happened to Hujr ibn Adi is nothing new to the Shia. This has been happening since the beginning. This has been happening since the time of the A'immah. And it is stated in the history, وَحَدَمَ مَا حَوْلَهُ مِنَ الْمَنَازِلِ, and he destroyed all the buildings around the grave of Imam al-Husayn. وَيُسْقِي مَوْضَعَ قَبْرَهُ, and he literally flushed out the area of the grave. What he did is he tried to actually flood it. This is how sick he was and demented he was. He tried to flood it out. So he arranged a redirection of the water to flood the entire grave out itself. He wasn't only content with destroying the tombstone. He wanted to wipe out the memory of Husayn ibn Ali from the face of this earth. But he was not successful. Why? Because the one who tries to put out the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will never be successful. These are what it means to be the Aada of Ahlul Bayt. My dear brothers and sisters, what we are experiencing today is nothing new. I am sorry to say. It is nothing new. We have been experiencing this for the love of our Imam since the beginning. The Zuwwar that they would catch, this is in Tabari's history, these are not my words, these are in the books of the historians, of Ahlul Sunnah historians. They say that Mutawakkil appointed special secret police to locate and imprison the Zuwwar of Imam al-Husayn. They would take them to what is known as a mutbiq, which is a dungeon underground. In this dungeon they would be tortured, they would be beheaded, they would be burnt alive, they would be crucified to a wall and nailed to a wall. They had special dungeons for the Zuwwar of Imam al-Husayn. Can you imagine? At the time of the 11th Imam. Yet the Shia did not stop saying Labbaik ya Husayn. They did not stop saying Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. They may have been crucified, their throats may have been cut, their tongues may have been pulled out of their mouth, but their lips would quiver with Labbaik ya Husayn. This is a reality. I am not over exaggerating. I am a historian of the subject. This is written in Muslim books and non-Muslim books, Orientalist books and the books written by our ulama. This is a historical fact. And we don't need to sugarcoat it or be sorry about it. Other people have a lot to answer for, yes. The ulama of that time who were radhi with what was going on, like Yahya ibn Aktham. Yes. Yes. Those who claim to belong to a certain sect. Were they involved? Are their hands covered in this blood? Yes. There's no denying this. This is a historical reality. The hatred towards the Ahlul Bayt was from a very early period. It never died out with the Abbasids. In fact, some say the Abbasids were worse than the Umayyads. Worse. In the kind of torture and violence that they would perpetrate towards the Shia. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. In fact, the Imam of Al-Azhar University, he says, امتاز المتوكل عن سائر أهل بيته, that Mutawakkil was known amongst his, in comparison to his family, بكراحة علي ibn Abi Talib رضي الله عنه وأهل بيته. These are the words of the Imam of Al-Azhar in his textbook known as the History of the Abbasid Empire. Not my words. Mutawakkil was known for his hatred towards Ali and Ala Ali. And were there ulama supporting him at the time? Yes, there were. And it's for that reason that, in fact, Sayyid Ali Milani, in his recent book, it's an excellent book for those who want to read it. It's called Man Qatalat al-Husayn, Who Killed Husayn, or who are the killers of Husayn. And in this book, he argues that, in fact, many great ulama considered Husayn ibn Ali to be a baghi. I don't need to name the names here. Ulama that today you'll find their books in many bookstores, Islamic bookstores. They considered him to be a rebel, or at least they considered the act of Yazid to be legitimate within the office of the Khilafah. And if I was to mention these scholars' names, perhaps some people might fall off their chair. There's a lot to be held accountable for. The hatred towards the Ahlul Bayt was not something that came up overnight. There was a complete, developed propaganda and effort to destroy physically and mentally the Ahlul Bayt and any image of them, and any memory of them, and any ziyarah to them. And today it continues, does it not? What, almost 1,000 a month in Iraq? 1,000 a month almost, at certain points. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So what were they scared of? I'll tell you what. It had nothing to do with shirk or bid'ah. Because they were already doing the ziyarah of the Prophet. So they can't give you that. They can't give that reason. The ziyarah of the Prophet and the ziyarah of the awliya and things were already going on by this time. Nobody banned that. That was fine. The ziyarah of the Sahaba was already happening in Medina and in Damascus and other places. You know what their problem was? When the Shia say, Labayk ya Husayn, something happens to them. Something happens very deep in their hearts. And you know what that is? A thawra, a revolution. The grave of Husayn ibn Ali was a site of the hopes and the expectations and the revolution of the Shia. And they knew it. That somehow when the Shia enter the shrine of Husayn ibn Ali, somehow when they enter the area of his mashhad, they are changed. I'll give you an example. A friend of mine recently went for ziyarah, an older gentleman in his 60s. Spent his entire life, secular lifestyle. I mean, was Muslim by name, was not a fasiq, but was not really a mu'min, in the sense of he was not really following the laws of Islam and just sort of went how things went, you know. Come in Muharram, so on and so forth. His whole life, or rather for many years, every summer or at a certain time of the year, or rather during Christmas time, they would go to Florida for vacation. Every year. Yeah, these people own timeshares, right, down in Florida. Nothing wrong in that. But every year he would go to Florida with his family. And one year, one of his other friends came to him and said, why don't you come with me for the ziyarah of Abu Abdullah Husayn ibn Ali? He said, I don't know, man, going all the way there. I got my timeshare in Florida. The condo is there. You want me to go for ziyarah? He said, Papa, just come. Come with me. You won't regret it. So he was sold. Came home, he told his wife, Yalla, let's go. Wife said, okay, Alhamdulillah, timeshare can wait this year. The 2 weeks vacation will be spent going to Karbala. He goes to Karbala. This is about a 65-year-old man. It was on the day of Arafah. The haram is packed. He finally gets in. He's telling me this. This is a man who's not experienced any much religiosity in his whole life. He's sitting in front of the Dua of the Imam. He closes his eyes and then he tells me, all of a sudden his entire life flashed before his eyes. Every single dhulm and sin that he committed from the point that he was baligh until 65 years of age flashed before his eyes. It was as if Qiyamah had already come. And he doesn't know how long he was asleep for. It may have been seconds, because Allah works in different ways. He opened his eyes in front of the Dua of Imam al-Husayn under his qubba on the day of Arafah. And from that point on, his entire life was changed. From that point on, whatever free time he had, he spent it in Karbala. Brothers and sisters, the ziyarah of Imam al-Husayn is not like anything else. Mutawakkil knew this. They knew this and they wanted to cut us at the knees. Well, actually, literally, they did cut us at the knees. This is both figuratively and literally. They knew Saddam Hussein, he knew this as well, mal'oon. Why did Saddam Hussein make the ziyarah of Arba'in illegal? Why? Do you think Saddam cared about shirk and bid'ah? This is a man who wrote a Quran in his own blood. It was not why? Why did Saddam Hussein mal'oon make the ziyarah of Arba'in illegal in Iraq? And he would plant secret police all along the way between Najaf and Karbala. But despite this, recent secret documents that were recovered from Ba'athi headquarters in Baghdad that now one of the Shia brothers is studying them, it tells us that despite this, Saddam in his inner circle with his security apparatus had a meaning only about the ziyarat of Imam al-Husayn. And he says, and his security officials say, these are in the documents that we have from the Ba'athi office in Arabic. Saddam says in this meeting that I don't understand what is wrong with these Shia. We threaten them with imprisonment. We threaten them with death. Yet 450,000 arrive for the ziyarat of Arba'in. And the head of them is Marhum Ayatollah Sayyid Abul Qasim al-Khoyi. Sayyid al-Khoyi put the whole Hawza of Najaf on the line to fulfill the labayk of Imam al-Husayn. And Sayyid al-Khoyi would pay the price. In fact, it is stated that him and his sons would take part in the feeding of the Zuwwar between Najaf and Karbala every year. And he was old. He was an old man by then. Marhum Sayyid al-Khoyi was called to Baghdad many times. You think it was easy for him to take all this thaqal on his shoulders? But he refused to stop saying labbaik ya Husayn. This is his legacy of Sayyid al-Khoyi rahmatullah alayh. He would feed the Zuwwar, and his children would feed the Zuwwar of Abu Abdullah. The marja al-alam, imagine. Despite the threat of imprisonment, despite the fact that these Ba'athis were burning the makhtutat of the ulama and using it as campfire in Najaf. Imagine, this is what they used to do. I was just in Najaf, I just came back. They were the sahib of the maktaba was telling me about how they used to make campfires from the makhtutat, from the sacred manuscripts. They used to make campfires and roast food on it. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Look at Medina today. The graves, the dhari of the companions sit very shining. Huh? They probably are even dusted every day. But the qubur of the Aimma sit in ruin. You can't even visit them. You're beaten and imprisoned and jailed. Just to say the salam, you can't enter the actual maqbara, like beyond the fence. But yet, the dhari of the Sahaba, with all due respect to them, fine, is shining, isn't it? Huh? This is something interesting to think about. Probably someone even comes and dusts it, right? In the holy city of Medina. Makes sure that the metal is shining, the gate, the sanduq and the box is shining there, huh? On either side of the Prophet. But the Ahlul Bayt rest in ruin in Baqi. With dirt. You can barely even point out whose grave is what. This is not a coincidence. This is the adawat and the hatred for the Ahlul Bayt. Not everyone. That few small group of people who put their poisonous hand over the ummah and suffocate this ummah. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I now want to share with you the dua of Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam for the Zuwwar of Imam al-Husayn. It is very powerful and it is emotional and it is moving. I may not finish it tonight, so I'll continue the first 10 minutes tomorrow night with it as well, inshaAllah. Muawiyah ibn Wahab walks into the room, into the ghurfa of Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam. He sees the Imam praying. The Imam finishes his salat and he goes into sajda. وَيُنَاجِي رَبِّهِ. And he begins to speak to his Lord. And what does he say? He says, يَا مَنْ خَسَّنَا بِالْكَرَامَةِ وَخَسَّنَا بِالْوَسِيَّةِ. Oh, you are the one who has given us the divine favor and dignity and has given us a successorship to the Holy Prophet. وَوَعَدَنَا الْشَفَاعَ وَعَطَانَا عِلْمَ مَا مَضَى وَمَا بَقَى وَمَا بَقِيَ. And you, O Allah, have made us intercessors for the ummah, and you have given us the knowledge of the past and the present and what is to come. وَجَعَلَ أَفْئِدَةً مِّنَ النَّاسِ تَحْوِي إِلَيْنَا. And you have made the hearts of the people turn to us. This is a dua of Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam. And of course, this is related to the verse of the Quran, Ibrahim 37, فَجَعَلَ أَفْئِدَةً مِّنَ النَّاسِ تَحْوِي إِلَيْهِمْ. This is related to the verse from Surah Ibrahim, when Nabi Ibrahim made a dua to Allah that the people of Mecca, where he left his family, we know the story. He left them in Mecca, there was no vegetation. And Nabi Ibrahim prayed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, begging Allah for the people's hearts to show some sensitivity and love and care and respect for his ahl, which he had left in Mecca. Imam al-Sadiq is saying here that we are the inheritors of Nabi Ibrahim. We are his successors. There is no difference between him and us. The Imam uses terms from the Quran in order to show that we are included in this ayah. The Imam then says, اغفر لي ولإخواني ولزوار قبر أبي عبد الله al-Husayn. Subhanallah, the Imam says, so forgive me and forgive my brothers and forgive the Zuwwar, the visitors of Abi Abdullah. The Imam now begins the most emotional part of the dua. This is in Al-Kafi with a complete isnad. The Imam says, الَّذِينَ أَنفَقُوا أَمْوَالَهُمْ وَأَشْخَصُوا أَبْدَانَهُمْ. Those who spend their wealth and push their bodies to the limits. رَغَبَةً فِي بِرِّنَا. Only so that they can seek to please us. They spend their wealth and they push their bodies to the limits to arrive at the ziyarah, to arrive at the mashhad. They do it why? رَغَبَةً فِي بِرِّنَا. To seek our love and respect. وَرَجَاءً لِمَا عِنْدَكْ فِي سِلَّتِنَا, and hoping for whatever mercy and thawab you can give them for the sake of them attaching themselves to us, creating a silla and a connection with us. They are hoping Allah will bestow whatever mercy they can get for the sake of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. They are ready to conquer the seas and the mountains and the lines of those who wish ill for them, so they can pledge their love and bay'ah lillahi tabaraka wa ta'ala, qurbatan illallah only. They are ready to conquer whatever they need to conquer in order to reach us, the Imam is saying. They do not take no for an answer. These are the Shia of Ahlul Bayt. The Imam is describing the top Shia here. Those who are in the inner circle, the khawas of the Imam. وَسُرُورًا أَدْخَلُوهُ عَلَى نَبِيِّكَ صَلَوَاتُكَ عَلَيْهِ وَآلِهِ. And by this happiness enters the Prophet of Islam. That by the Shia visiting us and visiting my grandfather Imam al-Husayn, happiness enters the heart of our Prophet. وَإِجَابَةً مِّنْهُمْ لِأَمْرِنَا. Why? Because they are responding to our affair. They are responding to our call. They are responding to هَلْ مِن نَاصِرٍ يَنْصُرُنَا. Is there any helper to help us? هَلْ مِن مُغِيثٍ يُغِيثُنَا. That when they arrive at the mashhad of Abu Abdullah in Karbala, they are saying that I may have not been there on the 10th of Muharram, but today I am here. Accept whatever little I have now to offer you. And I have come to you with a clean heart. I have come to you with sincere tears. I have come to you from far away. I have come to you by spending my wealth. I have come to you with danger to my life. But I am here, Ya Abu Abdullah. We will never understand the value of the ziyarah of Imam al-Husayn. Never, abadan, never. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the ma'asumin know. This is just a few hints that the Imam is giving us. وَغَيْظًا أَدْخُلُوهُ عَلَى عَدُوِّنَا. And when they arrive at the ziyarah of Imam al-Husayn, anger enters the hearts of our enemies. أَرَادُوا بِذَلِكَ الرِّضَاكَ. But Ya Allah, you shall know that they have only wanted your happiness. They are only seeking your rida. And because they are seeking your rida, they have arrived at the mashhad of Imam al-Husayn. And because they have arrived at the mashhad of Imam al-Husayn, anger has entered the hearts of our enemies. Brothers and sisters, this is from the time of Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam. We shall not be surprised about what happens today. فَكَافِيهِمْ عَنَّا بِالرِّضْوَانِ وَأْكَلَاهُمْ بِاللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ. But when our Shia do this, he says, grant them with your ridwan, with your satisfaction. Cover them and protect them in the night and the day as they come to you. These are the Shia that travel a long way to reach their Imam. The Imam is praying for every khatwa, every step of theirs. Can you imagine? The Imam is praying for every step of theirs towards the mashhad of Imam al-Husayn. Protect them, the Zuwwar of Husayn, from every stubborn tyrant, from every shayateen min al-jinni wal-ins. Yes, the shayateen from amongst the human beings and the jinn stand on the way to Abu Abdullah. The Imam is praying for the protection of his Shia from these shayateen who stand on the sirat to Karbala, on the tariq to Karbala. And they are standing today, aren't they? I still remember leaving Samarra in May. The guard comes up to me as we left Samarra going for Karbala. It was about 3 o'clock. It's too late because they close the haram at about 3. Because after that, your bus is blown up. There are RPGs flying from the road towards the buses. And we recited this dua on the bus as we were driving on the highway from Samarra to Karbala as night was falling. It was a very powerful moment. For that moment, we experienced that sense of fear that the Shia have been experiencing since the 61st year of Hijrah. The road is dangerous, and the shayateen of jinn and ins are sitting on the road. The Imam is saying this here. Oh Allah, give them the best of whatever they hope of your reward. That they only come to you. They only come to my grandfather Abu Abdullah seeking the thawab from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only. Their niyyah is to seek the rida of Allah faqat. This is the peak of La ilaha illallah. The peak. Listen to how La ilaha illallah is a part of everything. Look at the Imam is saying they're seeking your rida. They're seeking your thawab. They are seeking your happiness. وَأْتِيهِمْ أَفْضَلَ مَا أَمَّلُوا مِنْكَ فِي غُرْبَتِهِمْ عَنْ عُتَانِهِمْ. Oh Allah, give them the best of what they hope in light of the fact that they are estranged from their homelands. They are very far away from home as they come to the Imam. And grant them the best reward, and grant their children the best reward. The Imam now begins a dua for the children and the families of the Zuwwar of Imam al-Husayn who are left at home. Why? Because they may never see their parents again. They may never see their family again. But the Imam here is saying that I shall take care of them now. That you have left to see my grandfather, your family is in my hands. I am caring for them. Can you imagine? This is a wa'ad. These are the promises of the Imam. Allahumma inna a'da'ana aabu alayhim khurujahum. Oh Allah, the enemies lie in wait to ambush them as they depart to meet us. فَلَمْ يَنْحَحَهُمْ ذَلِكَ عَنَ الشُّخُوصِ إِلَيْنَا. But this does not prevent them from struggling to reach us. Your enemies lie on the tariq to Karbala. They lie in ambush just as they do now with RPGs. Isn't that what they do? Right? They don't stand out in the open. They'll go from far and they'll fire an RPG, a rocket-propelled grenade towards the bus of the Zuwwar. But this does not prevent my Shia from reaching. Al-Shukhus, meaning that they put effort, it's a very profound amount of effort to reach the Mashhad. It is not an easy journey, it is not a vacation. There will be bala and there will be tests all along the road, because this is the destiny and the determination of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. After all, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said in the Quran regarding Iblis, فَقَالَ فَبِمَا أَغْوَيْتَنِي. Because you have, Iblis is speaking to Allah, telling him, because you have thrown me away, لَأَقْعُدَنَّ لَهُمْ صِرَاطِكَ الْمُسْتَقِيمِ. That I shall stand on your straight path. This is none other but the path of Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Shaitan has sworn to Allah that he will sit on his Sirat al-Mustaqim. This is none but the highway to Karbala. Shaitan and his armies and his junud will do everything in their ability to prevent us from reaching our Imam. But as the Imam says, this has not stopped my Shia. This has not stopped them. This will not stop their tears from pouring onto my grave. This will not stop them from raising their hands under the kubbah of my Imam, of my grandfather. This is the courage of the Shia. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. That even if we were to live 1,000,000 years, my dear brothers and sisters, we will never stop saying Labbaik Ya Husayn. We will come za'fan, we will crawl to the grave of our Imam, but we will not stop saying Labbaik Ya Husayn. Za'fan, we will crawl to the grave if we have to. That these shayateen should know that they are dealing with the Shia of Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The Imam then says, فَرْحَمْ تِلْكَ الْوُجُوحِ الَّتِي قَدْ غَيَّرَتْهَا الشَّمْسِ. Have mercy on those faces which are changed and altered because they are under the sun as they come for the ziyarah. وَرْحَمْ تِلْكَ الْخُدُودِ الَّتِي تَقَبَّلَتْ عَلَى حُفْرَةِ أَبِي عَبْدِ اللَّهِ. Have mercy on those cheeks of which both sides touch the grave of Imam al-Husayn. Subhanallah, each cheek is infused with the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Each cheek touches the rahmah of Allah as it touches the grave of the Imam. وَارْحَمْ تِلْكَ الْأَعْيُنَ الَّتِي جَرَّتْ دُمُوعُهَا رَحْمَةً لَنَا. Oh Allah, have mercy on those eyes that shed tears. Why? رَحْمَةً لَنَا. Imagine, the Imam here is thanking us for our rahmah towards them. Can you imagine? Rahmatan lana. Because of our mercy for them. Can you imagine this maqam? None of us could ever really speak in this way to the Imam. But the Imam is addressing us in this way. He's addressing Allah, describing the maqam and the status of the Zuwwar of his grandfather. And he's saying, have mercy on every tear that they drop. وَرَحَمْ تِلْقَ الْقُلُوبَ الَّتِي جَزِعَتْ وَاحْتَرَقَتْ لَنَا. Have mercy on the hearts which are in a state of overwhelming grief for us. Have mercy on these hearts. For these hearts, احترقت لنا. صلي على محمد وآل محمد. That these hearts are set on fire for the sake of Abu Abdullah. Can you imagine? احترقت لنا. What kind of hearts are these that arrive at the mashhad of Imam al-Husayn? It is these hearts that come to the Imam to console him at the severed hands of his brother Abi Fadl al-Abbas. It is these hearts which are on fire to console the Imam over his butchered son Ali al-Radhi'. It is these burning hearts that are there to console him over the beheading of his nephew Qasim ibn Hassan. These hearts are on fire. They're burning with labbaik ya Husayn. This is no ordinary tears. This is no ordinary issue. And inshaAllah, tomorrow night, we will continue, we'll finish this subject and move on to another subject, and we will discuss the meaning of jaza'. Because here the Imam says something interesting. He says, التي جزعت لنا. That those hearts that are in a state of jaza'. Jaza' literally means overwhelming grief. Now generally when you go to look in the fiqh, it says that jaza' is either makruh or haram. So how can we justify having jaza' for Imam al-Husayn? This is a very important question. Why? Because this is precisely where the Shia are being attacked. And tomorrow night, because I don't want to use such short time to explain this because it's very important to understand this. Tomorrow night I'll finish an explanation about this issue. But our hypothesis is that it is not only accepted, but it's mustahab for the imam. And there are two very important reasons for that, and inshaAllah we will discuss those reasons tomorrow night. I'd like to end with some very powerful words from the Imam of our time, where he says in his ziyarah, he says in his ziyarah nahiya, he says, وَلَمْ أَكُنْ لِمَنْ حَارَبَكَ مُحَارِبًا. He says that I was not there to fight those who were fighting you. وَلِمَنْ نَسَبَ لَكَ الْعَدَوَاتَ مُنَاسِبًا. Nor was I there to confront those who had enmity and hatred towards you on the day of Ashura. فَلَأَنْدُبَنَّكَ صَبَاحًا وَمَسَاءً. But I shall now weep for you night and day. وَلَأَبْكِيَنَّ لَكَ بَدَلَ الْدُمُوعِ دَمًا. But I shall cry for you in such a way that my tears shall turn into tears of blood for the rest of my life. For the rest of my life on this earth, the Imam finishes by saying, for the rest of my life on this earth, I shall cry in this way for you. Every day is Ashura for the Imam of our time. Every single day. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى يوم الدين. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us all for answering the da'wah and the call of Sayyidah Zahra, for coming here, for shedding tears, and for renewing our bay'ah to the Lady of Light and the Lady of the Worlds. The one who, wallah, she will collect every single tear of ours. Every single tear will be collected by her. She will take account for every single beating heart in this room. And on the Day of Judgment, as it is said again, she will come on the Day of Judgment with the bloody shirt of her son. And she will ask for the judgment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is the day when the dhari of the Imam will be lifted as a bride and marched towards the arsh of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is the day, inshaAllah, where we will be mustabshirin. InshaAllah. Ilahi al-Ameen, Ya Rabbil Alameen.
السلام عليكم اخواني واخواتي. الله يخليكم الخروج من الباب الثاني. Please, lady, youth, our young youth, our children, our parents, those who want to exit the hall, please can use the double doors because we are having our guests coming in from the other side, just to prevent confusion. Thank you very much.